Hello, good evening. My name's Nick Bacon. I was lucky enough to be a fellow here in 2005. And you still remember the first thing that Steve says to you, because he's kind of a legend, and this was, "Bacon, your life's mine for 12 months." And I was thinking, yeah, he didn't really mean that. But he totally does mean that. And then before too long, Bacon became Bits, because so my name became Bacon Bits. And these little pages that you would go off, and it's true, they would go off and they'd just start talking to you. And Withrow had the ability to be in many places at once and always one step ahead of me. And so I was trying to get things ready to go to surgery, and I'm in a room with a client, and my thing goes off and it says, "Bits, if you're not too tired, come to surgery," because I'm setting cautery to stun. And the last story was that he's obviously a great advocate for CSU, and the cancer program would lead a huge number of tours. And I remember he brought a group of school children into the prep room, and we see some really bad cancers, and so he was there showing these children what we do and what vets do. And I bring this dog out from the room to bring it forward to have anesthetic, and it's got a horrendous, stinking tumor hanging off the back of its leg. And it's one of these things, you can smell it as it's walking past you. And we're walking past these children, and a lump of this thing falls on the ground. And the dog then turns around and eats it. And then the dog takes a few steps forward and just throws up all over the floor. So I just do the surgery, and I go upstairs later and say, "Boss, I'm really sorry about that." And he said, no, it's fine. He said, "I've just never seen so many kids want to be accountants quite as fast."
Thanks, Nick. That's a fantastic story. Cool. All right, the Bostonian is coming up. Excellent.
Hey, boss. Steve Withrow has always been like a father to me, and I've always said that, but I've never really told him it's because he's a grumpy old man. And I know a lot of people have said that he's always said, these really important things that stick with you, but people aren't really saying that he usually was yelling them from his office to my office. And then he would email me, and then I would just get up and say, "What's going on, boss?" We would talk about it. I just have one surgery story, which I would just like to preface it with the statement that I worship the ground you do surgery on. So this is not intended to be disrespectful at all. But one time, we were taking out a liver tumor. Do you remember this? And the way we do that is usually with putting a stapling device on the hilus of the lobe, and then firing the staples to stop the blood vessels from bleeding, and then cut off the liver lobe. But I think we were shooting the shit a little bit, and we kind of forgot that step. So we had cut the liver lobe off, and it was bleeding a lot. And I had just written my board, so I was fresh, and I said, "It's time for the Pringle maneuver," which is how you can stop that madness. And he was like, what the hell are you talking about, Boston? But anyway, we got it sorted out, and the dog did fine, and our adrenals were squeezed quite a bit. But everything was fine, and I always have your back, and I know you always have mine. And Withrow I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer last year, and the first person I wanted to talk to about it, besides my family, was Steve, because I know he'd have some great advice for me, and he did. He said, "Everything's going to be fine," and it is fine. And finally, I just want to thank you for everything you've given to me. You've definitely changed my life, just like a lot of people here. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Wow, these are some amazing stories. So Joyce, I've still Joyce on my list. You want to come up? Oh, someone else first. Oh, great. Yeah. Here you go. Hey, Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe Sotnick. I've known Withrow for a while. I was 16. It's a good thing you remember. Withrow and I met at camp doing dishes, just in case anyone didn't notice, and my skills haven't improved at all, so maybe tomorrow we'll catch up a little bit. But one story people may not know is how I got involved in the cancer biology program. I was actually interested in going to medical school, and I was talking to Withrow about it. He said, well, when you want to do something with your life and you decide to apply to veterinary school, let me know. Well, I didn't get in, so the next year he said, have you decided to do anything yet? Veterinary school's still an option. I said, no, I'm gonna try again. He said, well, go for it. Midway through the year, he said, well, we have this program in cancer biology that you should look into. I said, I don't know. It sounds interesting, but I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's something I'd be good or cut out for. And he said, well, think about it. Well, I thought about it, and it was the best darn decision I ever made. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. All right, Joyce. The floor is yours.
Hi. I just wanted to tell you what a fabulous mentor and a wonderful friend you've been. And I think the measurement of someone's career is really, and this is speaking about my career as being trained by Steve, but a lot of people measure their careers by how much money they make or how many cases they see or how big their hospital is. And I was thinking in preparation of talking today what really was the most meaningful moment of my career. And Steve had actually referred a case to us. It was a little girl who had been treated at MD Anderson for bone cancer, and her dog developed the same cancer. And so she came to us, and actually her dog we treated for a couple years, and through the course of this time, this little girl passed away. And their family's most treasured thing was the fact that we kept the dog alive longer than her, so she didn't have to watch her pet die. And that, to me, was the most meaningful part of my career, and that's thanks to Steve. So. And also, I was too scared to roast him.
People tend to take the microphone. All right. Do we have someone else on the seat? You want to come up? Great.
My name is Ralph Henderson, and Steve and I met in Las Vegas 34 years ago, where we both went out to gamble that we were smarter than the ACVS exam committee. We were. Yeah. Steve had flown in from Saskatoon. That morning he left. Temperature was minus 40. When he flew into Las Vegas, it was plus 60. It's the first time I'd ever considered somebody would transition a 100-degree temperature gradient in one day. And I thought, this guy must have quite a constitution. What I haven't heard anybody address, they've talked about is, I think that was integrity. No, that wasn't integrity. That was the name change. Well, never mind. Nobody's talked about where the fire in his belly has come from. But let me explain it to you. At the end of the exam, and I won't go through the details of the exam, but it was pretty sorted. It was 3 days at that time, and there was an intensity to it. By the end of the third day, nobody really wanted to talk to one another. You're pretty well drained. But we all got together in somebody's motel room, and Steve says, let's get some Chinese. So we walked down the street. We got some Chinese, some egg rolls, and we brought them back. And, of course, they gave us a little cup of mustard, and actually quite a big cup of mustard, and this cup of hot and sour sauce. And we'd kind of eaten the egg rolls up, and nobody had touched the Chinese mustard. And Steve walked over and said, popped the top, he says, what is, actually I can't quote this, my wife wouldn't let me. It was really close to, what is this stuff? And with that, he proceeded to drink a cup of Chinese mustard. Now, that's not the whole story, but that put a fire in his belly, but his eyes didn't even water. I stood there and I stared at him. And it was at that moment that I said, this is a man of unusual constitution and unusual character. The next day, he lectured on 35 cases of bovine keel bone as spacers for cervical disc wobblers. Remember that? Okay, that's not the part I remembered. It's probably crummy talk. Doesn't work. But what I do remember is I was standing there, we were in the room, it's kind of small, intimate room settings, but Steve pulls out a pack of beech nut chewing tobacco, and he puts in like just a big, Sue, you know about this kind of stuff. Yeah, I understand. And he proceeds to push it down in the corner of his mouth, and the projector came on, the lights came on. He lectured for 30 minutes, and he didn't spit one time. And I said, this is a guy that we'll hear from again in veterinary medicine.
Thanks, Rolf. Oh, you had the hug. All right, Paul, come up. Show me your talent.
Thank you. I'm Paul Woods. I'm at the Ontario Veterinary College. I did a medical oncology fellowship here. And so I would sort of like, I'm with Sarah, and so I'd sort of like to reflect sort of what Rod Straw said about Australia, but now about Canada, because I'm Canadian, and I'm okay with that. and so just to sort of show his influence up in Canada, we have a number of medical oncologists, radiation oncologists, and yeah, surgical oncologists as well, who have come to Colorado and have come back to Canada and really brought up the level of care and research and translational research in Canada. And just as a reflection of that, in September, we'll be opening an animal cancer center at the Ontario Veterinary College. You're all invited to come. We don't quite have the budget that Steve does, so we could really, if you're coming, bring the tent. If there's any food left over, you could send it on to Guelph, but mail it to Sarah. So one thing I'd just like to say, it was great working with you, Steve. It was always exciting to go into his office. You got some great ideas. Sometimes you got reamed, but sometimes there were some great ideas even on that part. But the part I felt most intimidating is going into his office and seeing all those Canadians dead and up on the wall.